Hi, Force fans. This is Shane. Thank you very much for coming to the channel. I just want to talk about my 2027 wish list for the Black Series line. Number one has to be Cantina Aliens. In the picture above, we've got quite a few that have already had representation in TVC already. But sorely lacking in our 6-inch Black Series scale. Hasbro are doing an absolutely incredible job with Aliens at this current time. We're seeing brilliant characters such as Sebulba. We're getting, guys like Watto. They're just looking absolutely fantastic, and they could do so many great and amazing things with some aliens from the cantina. Okay, we don't have a cantina. We're not lucky enough to get play sets that size at our scale, unfortunately, but they could certainly maybe give us a bar at some point with a Wuha, maybe the Tonica sisters. But for me personally, just to fill a scene with aliens, such as Muftak and Cabe, Labra Needs, Garin Dan, even though he wasn't in the cantina, Ariel Shoes, Labria, the Devil Man. There are so many amazing characters that Hasbro could do, and I really hope for the 50th next year, this supposed big 2027 year, that the Black Series are going to finally get some Cantina love, because it's well overdue. Now on to number two. I love a Stormtrooper, but I especially love the original 1977 Star Wars A New Hope Stormtrooper. The one with the slightly oversized helmet, the holster. These were my childhood. These were the first things that I had figures of back in the Kenner day. I love Stormtroopers. Hasbro have done some incredible trooper work over the years, but they've never quite got a quintessential A New Hope Stormtrooper as of yet. We've had Rogue One Stormtroopers in A New Hope packaging, which is not accurate. These guys, they need to be redone. Slightly larger helmets, the holster, the correct rifle. You could even do an army builder set, perhaps, of them, for the 50th. And give them interchangeable hands, for God's sake. How cool would it be to have, a TK421, for instance, or something like that with great hands to use. Number three has to be Jabba's Goons. The Black Series line is, again, sorely missing the majority of goons from Jabba's Palace, such as Tessek here. Vintage Collection have had them. Earlier lines have had them multiple times over. It seems that Hasbro and the Black Series guys don't want to do them for some reason. But these would be instant sells. They would be popular. And the tooling is there because, as I've said earlier in the video, they've done brilliant creatures so far, such as Sebulba, Watto, even Lama Su, from the Camino Attack of the Clone scenes. They can do these incredible niche background characters. But guys like Tessek or Squidhead, as I knew him growing up back from the Kenner days, this is my childhood. I'm a 46-year-old guy, man. Having a figure at 6-inch scale to represent a figure that I played with so often as a child would make my dreams come true as a fan. Absolutely. And I've got a Jabba's Palace display in my cabinet. It's got Jabba, it's got Huttslayer Leia, it's got Bib Fortuna, it's got some Gamma guards, it's got a Carbonite block, Boba Fett, Chewbacca, Luke Skywalker, admittedly the original run of the Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. We need that one, Hasbro. Don't hide it behind a failed Rancor, please. We also need the Rancor, by the way. That would be amazing for next year. Maybe give that HasLab another go, perhaps. But we're missing these aliens, man. We're missing Squid Head. The vintage collection a few years ago, they had Niktos and Klatus and Baradas and Yak Faces released in the line. We need those guys. You've just announced the Amani Guard from Mandalorian Grogu rather. Give us an Amanaman. Jesus. You had the Kenner version. You've had the vintage, well, not the vintage collection, the Power of the Force version. But give us a Manaman. Make him deluxe. Just give him, you've got the tools, you can do it. You've got the drive, and you've certainly got the money to collect from fans if you do these figures. Absolutely amazing. Jabba's Palace is rich, full of incredible characters. You could give us a Hermiodal. You could give us an Effont Man. Yes, they would be deluxe. You could give us a brand new Luke Skywalker in Jabba's Palace attire. It's there. The money is on the table, Hasbro. You really need to start collecting and giving us these figures. You're telling us that 2027 is the biggest year for the line, for the brand. Put your money where your mouth is and actually show us as fans that you are listening, because that is the most important thing. Do it for the TVC line as well. Give them a lot to be grateful for and thankful for next year, as well as the Black Series and Retro. You're all enthusiastic guys. You all love the brand. But sometimes it feels like you don't actively listen to when there's a lot of money on the table from fans. We want these aliens. We want to fill our backgrounds. We want to fill our displays. And with the tooling you got now, you can knock these out of the park. Number 4. The Empire Strikes Back in my collection is sorely missing so many characters, Hasbro. Characters that should really have been made by now, such as the Ugnaughts. Here you are. This is a courtesy of Rebel Scum. This was the old Power of the Force 2-pack. I had this as a teenager. I think it's been done again in a modern line, but TVC haven't had these as of yet either. You've got the Queel head now from The Mandalorian. You could easily knock up 2 distinct looking Ugnaughts and put them at 6-inch scale. These would be an instant sell. You could give them the modern articulation. You could even give them their old data pad and maybe a disembodied C-3PO head. We're also missing things like the Bespin security guards. Again, figures that were made back in the Kenner days, in the Power of the Force, Power of the Jedi line. TVC have got them. They're an easy 2-pack. Just give us 2 security guards, or give us a fan channel exclusive on these. They will sell. They are absolutely quintessential Empire Strikes Back characters. Again, we'd love to see a deluxe Bacta tank with Luke and maybe a pack in 2-1B or FX7. Again, scenes from Empire Strikes Back which are sorely misrepresented by the line so far. There's tons on Hoth that we could even get, like the white C-3PO droid, General Reekin. You could give us so much there, like a Hoth corridor, for instance, a snow trooper with an E-Web cannon. There are so many awesome ideas that you could do to actually provide more to Empire Strikes Back fans. Personally, I would love a Celebration exclusive or a fan channel exclusive pack-in of Luke and Leia as they're watching out to the Starfield when they're on the medical frigate at the end of Empire Strikes Back. You could even include a pack-in of a C-3PO and a R2-D2. Just those four in a beautiful packaging, a window box with the background being that awesome star scene at the end of Empire Strikes Back, where everything's been lost. Luke's just lost to Vader, found out that Vader's his father. It's there for the taking. It'll just be so beautiful. You could even look at this particular picture as an inspiration. All of these pictures that I'm showing, by the way, are all courtesy of 20th Century Fox, Disney, Star Wars. I will give thanks and praise in the video as I go on. But the Empire figures released in the Black Series are really lacking. We could do with a brand new Lando, for instance, with a better Billy D. Williams likeness, a soft goods cape. Lobot we absolutely need in the line. We don't see them as background characters as such. Well, I personally don't as a fan. I see them as people that I grew up with when I was watching these movies. And as a fan of the Black Series line, I'm quite flabbergasted, really, that those figures have never, ever been made. There's a market out there for them. You could do them as fan channel exclusives. There's just so many missing characters from Empire. I made a video earlier regarding FX7 and 21B. Again, two Kenner characters that have had modern interpretations. I appreciate that. The tooling and the mechanics of an FX7 might be quite difficult, but you guys are so talented. You could make this work. I really want to see these in a 2-pack or on single release, fan channel exclusive again. But they would certainly go a long way to filling out my Empire Strikes Back collection at this moment in time, which out of my entire collection, I've got the least figures, even though I've bought every figure from that movie that Hasbro has released. It's still severely underrepresented in the line so far. But there you go. And there, as I mentioned, Lobot has to be done. Lobot has to come out at some point on this line. And now I shall go on to number 5. So, number 5 has to be vignettes. We have had 2 incredible vignettes from Hasbro this year. We've had the Anakin and Obi-Wan Mustafar set. We've had the Luke and Vader Bespin duel. I think absolutely the next one needs to be Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Jango Fett on Kamino. I think these two could look absolutely amazing in the Black Series, given that you give us like a landing platform with kind of like a wet matte finish, a new Jango. Another one I was thinking of, quite a dark one, but the death of K2SO from Rogue One. You don't necessarily have to have the death, but you could have him behind a terminal, basically taking out a couple of stormtroopers. You've got the body for the stormtrooper. You've definitely got the Rogue One stormtrooper. Just give them a little bit of battle damage. Maybe give us a K2SO battle damaged as well. I think that one would be An incredibly cool looking set as well. And who doesn't love K2SO, one of the greatest Star Wars characters created in the modern era. I personally would love to see this particular scene put in a action figure box set. That would be amazing. My next one's a little bit out of left field, but I would like to see a 2-pack of Cassian and Jyn Erso at the very end of Rogue One, in this particular position, with the backdrop being the Death Star and the tsunami, basically, that engulfs them and kills them in the movie. Again, it's a very, very dark thought, but it could be maybe a convention exclusive or something like that. But it would capture the emotion of that. So these are my final thoughts, really, on 2027. I've no doubt that Hasbro are planning something absolutely special for next year, for the 50th anniversary. I think we're going to see some awesome choices in the retro line. TVC are going to get some absolute bangers, I'm sure. But for me, most importantly, I'm hoping that the Black Series gets the majority of applause for what is revealed going forward. I'm hoping we see characters from The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, along with original trilogy characters as well. I've no doubt we're going to see Ponkrell next year in a deluxe packaging. I would love Hasbro to take another stab at the Rancor for the Black Series. Just give us better tiers, maybe lower the price point somewhat, and make the backing count a little bit lower, because there are fans out there who desperately would buy a 6-inch scale Rancor. Failing that, maybe have a stab at giving us an AT-ST from Endor. Pack in the AT-ST driver, maybe a bonus Han Solo in AT-ST disguise. You could give us things like, the Ewok glider, for instance. There are actually, going on to Ewoks, we could do with things like Logray, Chief Chirper. Give us those Ewoks. You've got the bodies. They just need a fresh coat of paint and a couple of accessories. The current Ewoks that you've got, they're fantastic, brilliant little figures. And they really bring out my Endor bunker scene, which I will do a video on at some point, by the way. So I'm personally looking forward to 2027. It's going to be quite the year, I think. I want to, carry on making these videos as best I can, where I can. And I would like if you guys could like and subscribe and just leave your comments in the channel below. But thank you very much.